Shalom, call all Yahweh Hashem Rashad, and Shalom to the left. It's just a quick video. I've been seeing this, checking the news and stuff. And down in Florida, there's a lot of areas with Confederate flags and Confederate towns, sundown towns. Got plantations and stuff that still standing, different statues, certain schools named after certain Confederate generals. Like one of the schools I went to was Robert E. Lee. We had schools like Andrew Jackson, Nathan, I think his name was Nathan Bedford Forrest, if I'm mistaken, but they changed the name to Westside High. See, Esau, they shamed him, came out, they skirt me and left it. So they trying to cover up. They passed, but it's too fucking late. It's documented, we got the records, we got the books, we got certain men that's been researching and studying and figuring out all this information that we need to figure out. And ultimately, like the book of Ezekiel said, that flesh was going to come back on our bones. Which was just talking about basically us gaining this knowledge and this wisdom back, gaining our heritage back, knowing where we come from, knowing how we're supposed to conduct ourselves, even in Esau captivity, knowing how to conduct ourselves. I'm gonna read this in the book of Obadiah first, and I'm gonna start at the first verse. It says, "The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning Edom, which are so-called white people, because they're not white. They red or pale or whatever other color. God says, we have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador sent among the heathen. Arise ye, let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee smaller among the heathen." And if you actually really paying attention, like I got some videos queued up, I'll make another lesson about it. Hey, these other countries, man, they got their eyes set on these damn devils. And the Most High put the spirit on them to do that. Because they want to rebuild their nations up, their infrastructure, their economies. The only way they can do that is to get Esau out of the way. But even with them doing that, they're still not going to come out on top like they think, because that's not how prophecy is supposed to go. Verse 3 says, "The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, shall bring me down to the ground. For thou art thyself as an evil. And thou, though thou set thy nest among the stars, that's what I bring thee down." We should jump down a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna just keep on reading. It says, if these come to thee, give robbers by night, how art thou cut off? For they have not stolen till they had enough. If the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? Let's see, Esau don't want to leave shit. They go everywhere around the earth and just take. As soon as somebody else step up, now they pushing out sanctions and making a fake boogeyman, so to speak. Verse 6 says, "How are the things of Esau searched out?" This is how this thing searched out, by paying attention to all the information that's presented, researching, actually traveling and experiencing certain stuff. Like in the Apocrypha says, a man that has traveled is filled with wisdom, roughly paraphrasing. Because you travel to a lot of places, you experience a lot, you see a lot, you meet a lot of different people, see a lot of different spirits, all that different stuff. And you search these things out. It says how his hidden things sought up. All the men of thy confederacy. That's what I want to go into, because it's talking about Confederate memorials. It says all the men of thy confederacy. That's how you know who Esau is. If they don't even want to talk about being Confederate. But I never looked this up. Let me go into the definition of this. See what comes up. Now you look at Nathan Bedford Forrest. Look at all these Confederate guys of this Confederacy. That's what you would classify as Edomite, descendants of Esau. You got a definition that says a person one works with, especially in something secret or illegal, and accomplice. Got another definition that says join an agreement or a treaty. A supporter of the Confederate States. There's more definitions. Let me see what else coming. Let's see. I was just talking to my woman about this. How they took crafty counsel, because a lot of people don't even know. Let's see right here. There's other definition. It says bring states or groups of people into alliance. One of the main reasons why they want to bring those states or groups into alliance to do this. Go to this. Then I go back to the book over there. The book of Psalms, chapter 83. So in verse 2 it says, below thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel. Hold up. What that definition say? Bring stakes or groups of people into an alliance. It says, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. And they did that. But now, we know now. This is how the things of Esau are searched out. Now it says, back in verse 7, in the book of Obadiah, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in them. Shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of Mount of Esau? And thy mighty man on Timon shall be dismayed to the end, that everyone in the Mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. And the reason why? In verse 10, I'll tell you why. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. And he ain't say, just for a little bit. See, our captivity was for a little bit, for a period of time. Esau got to go through. It's going to be forever. I remember this place.
More than 70 memorials of Confederate leaders laid up at the state has removed memorials from 30 schools, roads, and cities over the past 5 years. News for Jackson reporter Joan Clay just went through a new report from the Southern Poverty Law Center and shows us the role Jacksonville played.
The Whose Heritage Report tracks how much the American Confederacy and its leaders are memorialized across the country. That includes monuments, but also the names of schools.
Yep. There go Lee, Robert E. Lee.
Roads, cities, counties, public buildings, and more. In total, the report found that America has more than 2,000 Confederate memorials standing today. One of them is right here in Jacksonville at the recently renamed Confederate Park. It's now Springfield Park. In the past few months, 2 city council committees voted against removing the statue, so it's here to stay for now. But the report also points to this street, which, as you can see, is still named Confederate Street. Jacksonville also removed the Confederate Soldiers Monument in 2020 and renamed 6 schools in 2021. All in all, the report shows Florida still having 75 memorials that honor the Confederacy, which the SPLC argues should never have been honored at all.
Yeah, not Esau. Guilty now. Now they trying to take this shit down. Well, it's too late, man. It's in the books. It's in the records. Even when you read these precepts, it break down the characteristics of what these people do and what they still do to this day. I'm gonna read some more. Let me see. Now, in the book of Obadiah, in verse 11, it says, in the day that thou stoodest on the other side, and the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem. And those lots were slave lots. It says, even though thou was one of them, but thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother and the day he became a stranger, because they took advantage of that, they capitalized off that. It said, neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction, neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. Because see, Esau ain't have no business really fucking with us anyway, even though it's prophesied for them to do certain stuff. They could have just, you know what, they got to go through this as part of prophecy. It's mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy, or the Deuteronomical text of the Torah. We're going to let them be and go through what they go through. Nah, they capitalize. They're like, you know what, while they fucked up, we're going to go in, we're going to take over, we're going to take their goods, we're going to throw them in captivity. Now, verse 13, it says, thou shouldest not have entered into the gates of my people in the day of their calamity. Yeah, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. neither should his thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape. Because you have people that escape. Especially like if you look up certain stories about so-called African Americans and Seminoles linking up together in Florida. A lot of people escape from different plantations went to Florida, or they might have went to Louisiana. And Esau brought his red ass down with his troops and wanted to cut off those of his that did escape, like the scripture say. It said, neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. So they got to pay for that. And I'm going to let this video play some more. It ain't done. That's a little bit more left.
Destroying these monuments and these memorials will not erase the legacy of slavery.
Yeah, they won't erase it. This is engraved in people. A lot of people, the craziest thing about it, they call it Stockholm Syndrome or whatever. A lot of people still suffer from this shit still to this day. And then, when you try to tell them, like, look, you the Most High chosen people, we supposed to be on top. It's holy people, we supposed to be separate. And they don't want to be separate, they want to be joined on with these devils.
But abolishing these memorials is a first and essential step in combating the white supremacist values of the Confederacy while drawing on historical memory.
Now, look, before I even go on, because I know how people think, they'll see certain stuff like this and be like, well, if they thought it was supreme and practicing supremacy, how can you practice supremacy? Or why would you want your people to be supreme? Well, let's go to this precept real quick. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 14. Let me see what it says. Deuteronomy chapter 14 and verse 2, it says, for thou art a holy people unto the Lord, thy power. So hey, don't get mad at me for bringing this out. Go get mad at these scripts. Now it says, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself above all the nations that are upon the earth. That don't sound like everybody linking up and having fun and vibing right there. And when you look at how stuff's set up on the earth anyway, a lot of people get into the military, the government, sports, medical field, food industries, who really be at the top? So even in a lower state, our people still be running this stuff. Even those kings and those rulers of the nations, they take counsel from our people. I've been in situations personally where them heathens have come to me for counsel type situations, so it's not impossible. And this make perfect sense, right? It's just when you tell our people this, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to be peculiar. They don't want to be holy. They don't want to be above. They like being below. So the Most High gotta refresh you, get you together, and then start with this type of stuff right here.
To facilitate community healing.
The report also points out the majority of these memorials went up not immediately after the Civil War, but during the Jim Crow era of racial segregation in the South. It's when white supremacists were solidifying a false narrative about the Confederacy's overall motive. It's why the Confederate battle flag is so often used by white supremacist groups.
It's not just that the flag represented the cause to destroy America. It's that it represented a government premised on white supremacy and the belief that white people had the right to enslave Black Americans.
The SPLC report also shows 1,910 memorials are in Confederate states, 102 are in border states, 44 are in Union states and Washington, D.C., and 30 others are in states that weren't part of the Union during the Civil War. Joe McLean, Channel 4, the local station.
All right, I'm going to end this off with a few precepts. It's the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2. Let me put it up. Take a little minute to load up. Give me 1 minute. just read on now from verse 3 and I end it off with one of my favorite precepts that I personally been waiting to see come to fruition. Now this is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2. In verse 3 it says, "For the vision is yet for appointed time, that time is coming and approaching." It says, "But at the end it shall speak," and you see it speaking. There's no coincidence they just now they want to pull this stuff down now. It says, "And not lie, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not right in him. But the just shall live by his faith. Yet also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations." It's only one nationality of people that do that on this earth, gather unto themselves all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunted proverb against him, and say, Woe to him, and increase of that which is not his? Who do that? Increase of that which is not theirs. But they go somewhere and say, they go in to help out, next thing you know, they taking some shit. God says, "How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay, shall they not rise up suddenly? They shall bite thee, and awake, they shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them, because thou hast spoiled many nations. All the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein." It says, "Woe to him that conveyeth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Thou hast consoled a shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul. For the stone shall cry out of the wall, and a beam out of the temple shall answer it. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establish a city by iniquity." Who did that? We ain't do that. Now, you know, they'll say, "Oh, well, black people kill each other every day." Yeah, which is true. But who really enabled that and really did more of that? Now, in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, and verse 10, it said, "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity." So who led who into captivity? Somebody got to pay for something, man. It is what it is. So he that killeth with the sword will kill with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints, and the saints are patiently waiting on this. So I want to bring this out since I seen this. I don't want to write this out. It's edifying. Oh, and before I end this out, hey, I can, man, you can see it clear as day. Esau shit falling. Let me let this video play too right here at the end. They taking down statues and they fucking jets falling in the damn ocean. Esau shit through, man. That shit over with. Just a matter of time before more prophecies come to fruition. Once that Jacob's trouble hit, that you know what get implemented, ain't too much longer for real. So stay alert, stay circumspect, pay attention to these prophecies that's going on. Shalom.